Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, President Marcos has approved 21 priority measures endorsed by the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC. Among them, the removal of travel tax. Net inflows of foreign direct investments into the Philippines hit a 4-month high in November. And as the Philippine equity market rally carries on, the biggest risk isn't local but global, says Call Financial. Chief Equity Analyst April Lee Tan joins us live to tell us why. Abolishing the travel tax and penalizing disinformation are part of President Marcos's 21 priority measures that he hopes Congress will pass by June. The president yesterday presided over the third meeting of the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC, with congressional leaders in attendance. Among the LEDAC's common legislative agenda include scrapping the travel tax, penalties on fake news, stronger teeth for combating sexual abuse, and provisions for the BARM elections. The president's son, House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, filed the bill last week to abolish the travel tax, saying it has become an unnecessary burden for travelers. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says the president sees the value in removing this fee.
Kanina po ang napag-usapan lang po ay kung ano maitutulong nito sa ating ekonomiya. Nakita po ng Pangulo na mas makakagaan po ito sa ating mga turista at sa ating mga kababayan na nagbabiyahe.
As for fake news, Castro says the president wants a bill that won't curtail freedom of expression and legitimate criticism of government. Other priority measures include the ban on political dynasties, budget blockchain, establishment of the Independent People's Commission, and reforms on party list groups. Economy and Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan says these measures aim to rebuild public trust, address national concerns, and improve delivery of basic services. As President Marcos prepares for a visit to New York in March, Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Babe Romualdez, says the trip is meant to strengthen the country's bid for a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Romualdez told the Big Story the Philippines stands a strong chance of securing a seat, citing broad diplomatic support and active engagement with UN member states.
This is an opportune time for the president to be able to help in the campaign for us for a seat at the Security Council. There's the elections this year for next year's seat, and we are running for that position for a period of 1 year.
What are our chances?
We are actually pitted against Kazakhstan, and I think we have a very good chance of being able to get the seat at the Security Council. We've had the commitments from countries, but of course, in any kind of election like this, it's really a question of consistently moving around.
As for trade concerns, particularly whether the Philippines is seeking a reduction in U.S. tariffs, Romualdez said discussions are ongoing, describing the effort as a work in progress.
We have been in discussion with the USTR, the United States Trade Representative, together with our Undersecretary Alan Gepti. And we've had a number of exemptions already that we've been able to achieve. And we're, I think, in the process of just finalizing some other areas where we can also have not only exemptions, but perhaps to have a reduced tariff.
Meantime, Romualdez said they will be formally inviting U.S. President Donald Trump to visit Manila this year for the ASEAN Summit. In a related development, Romualdez says there is still room for dialogue with China despite tensions in the West Philippine Sea. Romualdez said the Philippines wants to pursue a broader relationship with Beijing, particularly on trade and economic ties. He added they are exploring a possible meeting with the Chinese foreign minister on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit in Manila. Separately, retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio told the big story China cannot impose in the Philippines the same standards it applies within its own borders. This comes after the Senate has adopted a resolution condemning hostile statements by Chinese diplomats against Filipino officials defending the country's sovereignty. Carpio also said the country should consider initiating another arbitration case against China to assert its claims in the West Philippine Sea. He added negotiations and a code of conduct are effectively dead in the water. Net foreign direct investments into the Philippines climbed to a 4-month high in November, even as it slipped year on year. Preliminary data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas show FDI net inflows reached $897 million in November, just below the $900 million recorded a year earlier. Month on month, however, inflows rose by nearly 40% from $642 million in October. November saw the highest FDI inflows in 4 months, or since $1.3 billion in July. The central bank said South Korea was the top source of investments, with most funds going into the manufacturing sector. The Philippine Stock Exchange Composite Index hovers at its highest in nearly a month, the best in nearly 7 months. It's erased all of the declines since July 28 last year, when PBBM revealed the anomalous flood control projects in a State of the Nation address. So does this rally have legs? Well, with us to answer that question, April Lee Tan, the Chief Equity Analyst for Call Financial and host of Intelligent Investing. Good seeing you again, April. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you for having me today.
All right, so should we be as optimistic?
I think there's room to be optimistic. The thing is, the major driver right now is, the Philippines' cheap valuation and the ongoing rotation of foreign investors into more traditional names, value names, something that we really do have. So we are benefiting from that. Seems like we're also seeing some positive surprises as far as corporates are concerned based on the 2 companies that have come out with them. So far, so good.
So is there also room to be pessimistic?
Well, there is room to be pessimistic, but if you think about it, given how cheap the market is, looks like the negatives are priced in. So just to put things into context, right now, I think we're trading at 9 times PE. So during the global financial crisis, we bottomed at 8 times PE. So we're almost there. And, right now, notwithstanding all the negatives, okay, even with GDP just being at 3%, we're still growing. So maybe, people are just too pessimistic. They've sold everything so that if there's just a little bit of good news, people come back in. But if there's bad news, it's more like, well, I've already sold everything anyway, so it doesn't affect me.
There are many ways to slice and dice this, but maybe we could take it from the global versus local perspective. You have the view that it's global risks as the bigger mover of the markets, but why would you say so, given that we still have local risks of a slower growing economy because of the corruption scandal?
Yeah, because what's driving the market really right now is the foreign flows. We've actually had a net foreign inflow for the month of January. Actually, it started, I think, towards the end of December. And right now in January, we're still seeing funds going in. So this has been an ongoing trend since last year. If you look at the performance of the emerging markets through MSCI Emerging Market Index, they have actually outperformed the S&P 500 because there is an ongoing trend where, if you read about and hear about what people are talking about in the US, there are concerns about an AI bubble, expensive valuations of tech names. So what investors are doing there is that they are, I would say, diversifying or rotating away. They're reducing their exposure to the US. And what they're doing is they're relocating their funds to other countries, such as, first they're looking at Asia in general, and those that would benefit, say, from the ongoing capex boom in AI. So it's benefiting a lot of the, say, semiconductor companies in Asia, and we also have
Exactly to
AI
your point,
names.
the AI boom. We're not even part of that ecosystem. So, what makes them want to come here? What will be the major driver then?
Well, last year it was, say, going to the tech names and going to the semiconductors that power these AIs, because they are being manufactured in Asia anyway. Like you have Taiwan Semiconductor and Samsung and all of that. But you see, okay, so last year MSCI emerging markets was up 30 something percent. So, okay, they're not as cheap as they were. So, you know how it is when the first movers become a little bit more expensive, then you spill over to the other cheaper place. Because if you think about the Philippines, yes, we're not part of that fast growing segment. We're not really a beneficiary. We do have our
Yeah.
semiconductor exporters, but they're not listed. But if you look at the grand scheme of things, our corporates are growing. They're just not growing in a brisk pace. They're growing single digit, mid to high single digit. So, and they're trading at cheap valuations, and they provide dividend yield. So, I mean, that's why they are now slowly, spilling over to the Philippines.
Okay, so where then can we get the biggest bang out of our buck if we do believe that it's a local equity place we have to invest in?
Yeah, I mean, well, as I've said, still have to be positive, stay invested in Philippines, but I think it's more of managed risk type of exposure. So, for us, for example, we're still recommending having a little bit of defensiveness, in the sense that, buy local stocks are trading at good valuations, but make sure that they also pay you good cash dividends. And I guess, to be aware of the bottom up story, like what's happening in companies. Like, it's more of a stock pickers market. So pick good names, companies that have defensive earnings that are expected to grow on a faster pace this year. So in general, those are the themes that we see.
Final point, can you name some names ahead of the Banco Central decision on the 19th?
Well, for the defensive names, for example, we still like power companies, like Aboitiz Power. We still like utility names like Maynilad. Um, for the other sectors, we like the big banks like BPI, Metro Bank, BDO. Even BDO, we like it. And then for consumer names, we like DNL. The telcos are starting to look interesting based on what Globe has disclosed so far. So we're quite excited to see how PLDT will also perform.
25, 50, or stay its hand? What do you think is going to come up on the 19th?
Most likely 25. I mean, we'll see. It's quite interesting.
It will be. And that's what we're waiting for. Thank you so much for joining us. April Litan of Call Financial. And you're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, the global tour of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the new musical, is coming to Manila. We speak with Tony-winning producer Mark Ralph. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Checking in on the markets now. AI jitters dragged wealth management stocks yesterday, ending the session for the broader benchmarks mixed. The The Nasdaq fell by nearly 0.6%, S&P 500 slid by 0.33%, and the Dow edged higher to its third straight record, up by 0.8%. AI tools like altruists are unnerving financial services for their ability to create personalized tax strategies without manual entry. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.144%, and gold prices slid but managed to stay above the 5,000 mark. U.S. futures point to slight gains when the markets open later tonight, Manila time. The Nasdaq up by 1/3%, and both the S&P and Dow rise by 0.2%. Asian markets are surging in the early hours of trading this Wednesday. Japan's Nikkei 225 jumps by over 2%. Australia's ASX 200 climbs by over 1%, and South Korea's Kospi advances by 1/3%. And a look at our own markets. PSEI opening this Wednesday higher by over 0.25% at 6,492. The stock market surged yesterday by nearly 2% as investors were buoyed by the latest FDI figures. The broader all-shares index climbed by nearly 0.9% with the local counters all in the green. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today stronger at 58.44 to the dollar. The peso settled yesterday to 58.53 to the dollar ahead of key U.S. economic data releases. And 10-year government bond yields went little changed at 5.967%. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the new musical, is coming to Manila this July, and the gentleman behind it is with us today. He is a 7-time Tony Award-winning producer and co-founder of Broadway International Group and Broadway Asia, whose productions have toured to over 400 cities in more than 60 countries. He's behind shows from The Producers and Hairspray to Back to the Future and Stomp. And soon in Manila, Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the new musical. Joining us now is Mark Routh, the producer for Mark Routh Productions, Inc. and Broadway Asia International. Welcome to Manila, Mark, and welcome to the program.
Thanks. Great to be here.
All right, so what brings you here 5 months to the new musical of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah, I'm here working on some of the marketing and publicity and the other functions that we have to do to get ready to bring the show here. We're very excited to come to the Manila market.
And what is the Manila market looking like for you? The audience makeup, what kind of an audience market is it really compared with the other cities where you've toured Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
It's a very strong market. There are two markets where my company actually takes risk financially, and that's Hong Kong and Manila. And partly it's because we can speak the language, but partly it's because we trust the market and that it's strong, and there's a really committed theater-going audience. In the China market, where we play a lot of dates on this tour, it's a little more adventurous for us to go there because some of those markets just aren't as established as places where people go regularly to see the theater.
Interesting you make a mention of Hong Kong and Manila as risks and mainland China or Chinese mainland as adventurous markets. I mean, what are the metrics for this? What are you finding are the metrics that would make you say it's going to be a success?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, partly I would say what happens in China for us is that it's just a developing market. Here it's more mature, and so the presenters don't have as much experience. The theaters don't have as much history of presenting this style of theater and a consumable in the marketplace for the regular audience, basically.
A mature market for the Philippines. I mean, there are some who say that we're an exporter performers sort of market versus
true.
Being a serious audience market. But what are you finding now that you're bringing your production here? Is there a sort of a shift going on between performer and audience?
Well, first of all, I do think that there's an incredible number of performers who come from the Philippines, and we get to see them on Broadway and the West End. So. In fact, my next brand new show, The World's Greatest Lover, which opens in London in April, we have a great Filipino actor, Joaquim Valdez, who's joining us in the cast. So there's always great performers that are exported from the Philippines. But in terms of bringing shows here, what we found is that market, even in the last, I don't know, 5 years, has really matured so that it's just healthier. There's more people who are interested in purchasing tickets, and maybe the purchasing power is greater. I'm not sure about that, but we're getting a very enthusiastic response. The last major production that we brought here to the Philippines was The Sound of Music, and that was a great success for us.
That's interesting that you mention ticketing prices, because people are understandably cautious right now with the slowing economic growth because of the corruption scandal in government. People are wanting to spend on basics. Beyond basics, I mean, they'd put that off. What are you finding now in the ticket purchases for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
It's interesting about the purchase of tickets. I think, yes, it's a luxury. Obviously, you have to have food and clothing and a place to live first and foremost. But after that, I think that, people do value entertainment and the ability, especially in the world we're living in, to take a break and sort of, immerse yourself in the world of a musical and of that joy and that sort of wonderful, the wonderful talents of the performers and the cast and the writing and all of that.
Have you done up the costing, though? I mean, the next kind of level of entertainment that Filipinos can enjoy according to their budget, and how that compares with the musicals that you do stage in Broadway or the West End?
The economics that we're working with are the touring economics. So the cost of the production part of it is really been amortized over the whole entire run, in terms of our production. So when we bring the show to Manila, we don't have to think about sort of exactly what the Manila market can afford in terms of the ticket price. We've already figured out, how it will work by amortizing that over an entire run, because this particular tour plays Abu Dhabi in the Middle East, it plays Singapore, it plays Malaysia, as well as many dates in China and Hong Kong. And so the cost has already been sort of solved to some degree, and then the question is, what can this market afford? And we have to do that based on the economics of what does the theater cost, what is the local labor cost, and all of it works out. The margin's thin, but it's doable.
The margin's thin. Where is it most costly?
It's always thin, in bringing theater to the world, because, our labor costs are high, just in general, and then there's I think one of the things that's happened lately is that the cost of freight has gone up, substantially, just based on the market conditions. So, all of those things have an impact on the bottom line, because we're just, like I said, pretty thin.
The cost of bringing in a production here and the ease, if I may, the ease of bringing a production here, how does that compare with other countries, given that we do have some tax regimes to hurdle?
Yeah. I think it's no different than the other markets in my experience. I mean, yes, there are those challenges, but we have our local partners like GMG who help solve some of those issues for us.
So it is very important to get a good local partner and really recreate that ecosystem for yourself.
That's right.
If you say it's a mature market, how mature is the ecosystem for the whole live entertainment industry here?
We've been bringing shows to the Philippines for many years. The last show that we originated here was actually a production of Cinderella starring Lea Salonga, but that was 2008, so quite a long time ago. So, we've been working regularly here, as you said, exporting performers, but also, even creating shows. That particular show we rehearsed here, and it was the world premiere of that production.
Is there an intention to import our own performers that you export? I mean, Joaquin is performing in London.
Yeah.
Do you have that kind of a strategic plan of bringing them back here so that Filipinos can see them in their home country?
Well, yeah, and we had the wonderful experience with Sound of Music that we were able to invite a couple of Filipino performers to join us in the show, and we have that surprise coming up for Charlie. I'm not ready to announce it yet,
Okay.
but we will have one of your beloved Filipino stars join us in a featured role in the show.
We'll wait on that. But are there any other productions that you're laying out there that's going to include Manila in the global tour?
Absolutely. World's Greatest Lover, which has its great world premiere, will absolutely come to this market. We're looking forward to bringing it. And we have many others that we're in discussions to bring. But as I said, I feel like Manila is a very welcoming market, the Philippines. And so, we'll have many exciting shows to bring in the coming years.
All right. Good luck on the musical in 5 months. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mark.
you so much.
Appreciate
Yeah,
the
take
time.
care. Thank you.
And that was Mark Routh of the Mark Routh Productions. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.